A young boy known as the Duke of Death is cursed by a witch, so any living thing he touches dies, so his noble mother banished him to a mansion far away. He is served by a maid, Alice, a childhood friend who, despite knowing his touch would be fatal, enjoys tempting him with her body so she can enjoy his reactions, and is the only one who spends time with him. Another childhood friend, Philip, asks if he can visit, and Duke agrees as he hopes to have friends again. Philip arrives with guards who deter Duke from getting too close, ruining Duke's hopes. Philip is scared when Duke accidentally touches a plant which withers away, and tries to convince Alice to leave Duke, whom he calls a monster. Philip reveals Duke's mother forced him to visit as a spy, revealing she hopes to replace Duke as family heir with his younger brother and cut Duke off from the family entirely. Philip then leaves, swearing to never visit again. Duke is heartbroken but swears to one day break his curse and repay all Alice's kindness by confessing his love and asking her to marry him. Rob, Duke's elderly butler, returns to work, but Duke worries as Rob has bad eyesight and is constantly in danger of bumping into Duke. Duke begins focusing on his piano, hoping to one day make a living writing songs. He plays Alice a song he wrote for her, and Alice almost kisses him after he falls asleep. Duke is abruptly visited by his sister Viola, who has an annoying girly personality. Viola instantly sees Duke is smitten with Alice and teases him. She surprisingly tells Duke to break his curse quickly so he can come home. She then bumps into Rob accidentally, revealing she has a crush on him. A cat wanders into the mansion, putting Duke on edge as he can't predict if the cat will try to touch him. Rob finds a confusing note in its collar asking for forgiveness, leading Duke to believe the cat was abandoned. Releasing it outside, Duke sees it actually has a wife and several kittens. Later that night, Duke asks Alice to dance, and though it is difficult, they manage to waltz without touching. With the dance over, Duke nervously asks Alice how she feels about him, and she admits she loves and adores him. Alice asks Duke to a festival in town, with Duke in a costume heavy enough he won't pose a danger. A masked woman named Daleth recognizes Alice as Sharon Lendrot's daughter. Duke helps a lost child feel better by playing a piano, his skill causing the crowd to dance. After seeing a novelty mask of his face, Duke realizes rumors about his curse are spreading. Alice tells Duke a tale about a princess whose prince was imprisoned on the moon, so every year she sends him a kiss. Duke becomes depressed that even on a date he cannot touch Alice, but she assures him being close is enough. Later, Alice summons him to her room, and while she pretends it is for perverted reasons, she just helps him relax so he can sleep. Duke invites her on a boat to watch a meteor shower, but when she falls in, he is unable to catch her. Alice demands a kiss, even if it kills her, but when he refuses, she reveals it was a trick so she could tip him in the water as well. They miss the meteors and Duke is upset he couldn't tell Alice he loves her like he planned. Alice doesn't mind and tells him to try again at the next meteor shower in 10 years. Duke worries when Alice stops teasing him, but is relieved to discover she just has a cold. After she recovers, Alice asks Duke to spend the day in the snow and gives him a scarf she knitted. Returning inside, Alice notices she dropped an earring that belonged to her mother. Duke sneaks outside to locate it, but passes out in the cold. A nearby bat transforms into a girl and helps him recover. When she discovers he is a noble helping a maid, she decides he has potential, uses magic to find the earring, and introduces herself as Cuff, a witch. Duke invites her inside where Alice is happy he found her earring. Cuff explains she distrusts humans as witch hunters killed her parents, and being half-human witches avoid her, so she never learned about curses. She reveals her friend might know something, but when Duke suggests she seems to really like her friend based on how much she trusts him, she jumps out a window and vanishes. Alice reminisces about one of the last times Duke was able to touch her, defending her from bullies, and he claims snow makes her look like a snow fairy. Viola visits and declares Alice must learn how to make a cute face. Unfortunately, Alice is already a master of appearing cute towards Duke, whereas Viola embarrasses herself making a cute face at Rob. Viola insists on helping Alice cook, but keeps getting distracted by Rob. She admits to being jealous. Duke has people to support him through his curse and reminds him to find a cure before their younger brother becomes heir. Duke takes Alice ice skating and meets a white crow that transforms into a human named Zane, a magic user and Cuff's friend. Alice reveals she actually found Cuff in her bat form on the ice and helps her warm up. They decide to take part in ice skating, where Duke becomes jealous Cuff and Zane can have physical contact, whereas Zane is jealous Duke and Alice can be honest about their feelings. Cuff decides to take Duke to the next witch's sabbath, where Duke might locate the witch that cursed him. Viola decides to stay the night in Alice's room, where they discuss love and Viola's desire for an older sister, since her mother tended to ignore her. Alice advises Duke to pay more attention to his sister in the future. Duke realizes that his conservatory is overgrown. Using his curse, he kills the unnecessary plants, then, despite them being dead, braids the flowers into a crown for Alice. A cat steals Alice's gown while she showers, forcing her to wear Duke's coat and allowing ample opportunities to tease him. They find the gown ruined, which upsets Alice as it was one Duke liked. She wears her uniform instead, and Duke must refuse her invitation to shower together. Cuff and Zane take Duke and Alice to the Sabbath disguised as witches. Duke is surprised when the Sabbath turns out to be an administrative meeting lasting only 5 minutes. Daleth, the Sabbath leader, confronts Alice and Duke, revealing she only met Alice's mother once and also met Duke as a child. She also reveals the witch who cursed Duke is dead, but she had been a genius magic user, so Duke's curse probably cannot ever be removed. She then burns their disguises, forcing them to flee. Duke wonders why Zane and Cuff helped them, so Cuff explains about his potential and promises their next visit will be as friends. Despite the bad news about his curse, Duke is determined to find a cure. Alice buys a witch's pot to brew a potion that supposedly removes curses, but it does not work. Alice has Duke perform a song which, if played perfectly, can cure curses. Duke begins playing and is visited by the ghost of the songwriter, who distracts Duke by trying to molest Alice, but Alice foils him. Duke finishes the song, but the only curse lifted is the ghost, who moves on, having heard his song played perfectly. Duke learns about the suspension bridge effect from Viola and decides to scare Alice, but Duke becomes terrified instead when he nearly curses a flower Rob has been cultivating for 50 years. Rob is actually grateful, as jewelry belonging to Duke's grandmother, stolen by a maid decades ago, was hidden in the flower pot and can now be returned. Duke and Alice wake up in a fantasy land, having been put in a magical sleep by a book on curing curses. Alice has Duke grope her breast, but as it is a dream, Duke is disappointed he can't actually feel it. They spend all night trying to catch a white rabbit for a girl in a blue dress and decide to end the dream with a kiss, but Duke wakes up in his own library before they can. Cuff asks Duke to teach her to read and write to impress Zane. Walter, Duke's brother, is annoyed their mother still wants Duke as heir and that Viola prefers Duke over him. Since Walter has a severe inferiority complex about being the younger brother, Viola visits Duke and encounters Cuff. She attempts to apprehend her as an intruder, but is embarrassed when Rob sees her sat on top of another woman. During a snowstorm, Alice reminisces about her first time at the mansion when Duke was younger, still depressed about his curse, and would destroy entire rooms in the mansion from anger. At first he rejected Alice, but having been his childhood friend, she refused to leave him alone, so he set her a challenge: clean his bedroom he had destroyed in 3 days or be fired. Alice cleaned the room in a single night, so Duke ran away. After almost dying in the cold, Alice found him and scolded him for trying to kill himself, knowing there would be people who would miss him, especially when she was alone and sick. As a child, he was the one who helped her feel better. Duke agreed to return to the mansion with her and realized he had begun to fall in love with her. Viola decides to give Rob a handkerchief at Duke's Christmas party. Walter illicitly follows Viola to Duke's mansion disguised as her driver. Zane reveals he may have feelings for Cuff and attempts to compliment her, but Cuff falls asleep and it is uncertain if she heard him. Viola drops Rob's gift, which is picked up by Walter as he sneaks in, hoping to see Duke depressed and alone. He disguises himself as Santa, but is caught by Cuff, who thinks he is the real Santa and tries to help by dropping him down the chimney. Duke is happy to see Walter, as they have not seen each other in years. Walter confronts Duke about the unfairness of existing only as Duke's potential replacement. Duke settles an argument between Viola and Cuff over Rob's gift, which Cuff mistakenly thought was her gift from Santa. Walter wagers with Duke that whoever discovers the cure to Duke's curse becomes the heir. Walter tries to leave but ends up stubbornly stuck outside in the snow, having remembered he is Viola's driver and can't leave without her. After the party, Alice teases Duke with a request for a kiss under mistletoe, causing Duke to remember the first time he told Alice he loved her. Alice dreams about her mother, Sharon, maid to Duke's mother when Duke was young. Viola notices their mother is angry they missed Christmas dinner. Zane sends Cuff shopping alone after Viola criticized him for his habit of doting on her. Cuff manages the shopping but almost injures a young pickpocket, forcing Zane to revert to his habit of saving her. Duke has trouble sleeping, so Alice decides to get in bed with him. Except her sleeping nude makes his sleeplessness worse. She asks about his mother and Duke claims he would leave the family if she parted him from Alice. Alice is troubled Duke may be forced to choose between her or his family one day. Rob remembers being ordered to raise Duke away from the family, becoming a surrogate father, but blamed himself for Duke's isolation and depression until he brought in Alice, someone close to Duke's age who has become precious to him. Duke asks Alice to sing while he plays the owl and the pussycat on the piano. Though they both end up embarrassed, Alice returns to her room despondent that, despite Duke's confidence, they will likely be parted when his curse is broken. Viola searches the family mansion for clues and finds a servant's logbook. Viola's mother forces her to start wearing dresses to prepare for marriage. Instead, Viola moves in with Duke and reveals the logbook written by Alice's mother Sharon. Daleth spies on this and gives Zane a message. Alice discovers from the logbook 2 witches visited the mansion around when Duke was cursed, Daleth and another. Zane passes on the message that Duke should stay away from all witches, but Zane has no intention of obeying. Alice later overhears Duke telling Zane how much he loves her. Zane steals the logbook, intending to burn it after Daleth threatened Cuff, but when Duke catches him he feels guilty and returns the logbook, warning Duke it contains something secret about Daleth. Duke tells him to burn it for Cuff's safety, so instead Zane disintegrates it, telling Duke that Daleth is watching, but once she stops he can use his secret magic to restore the logbook from the single remaining piece. Daleth is satisfied the logbook is gone and ceases spying, but privately reveals she has Sharon's body in a coffin. Duke is surprised to receive a letter from his mother summoning him to the main house for the first time in years. Duke sees his mother, but she sends him to bed so they can talk in the morning. Duke is surprised when Viola claims Gerbera was actually in a good mood. Gerbera mistakes Alice for Sharon, whom she was good friends with, and becomes unexpectedly emotional. Viola takes Duke to the garden where the witch cursed him to love no one, be loved by no one, and live a life of misery. Viola tells Duke she and Walter are jealous of Duke since at least he lives away from their mother. At dinner, Gerbera explains that, with their father terminally ill, they must decide on the family heir, and gives Duke until spring to break his curse or Walter will become heir. Duke gives an impassioned speech about his love for Alice, but when Gerbera refuses to let him marry a maid, he accuses her of treating her children like possessions before storming out. Privately, Gerbera is proud Duke was able to stand up to her. Duke returns home with Alice and tells her what he said to Gerbera, but he still wants to marry her no matter what. Alice waits for Duke to fall asleep before saying that she loves him too. So this is the end of anime. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it.